The Suda covered the Yartzeit of the Chofetz Chaim and Rabbeinu Yisrael Meir ben Rabbeinu Ari Zev Schus Yagan Aleinu. Talking about the Chofetz Chaim is to me a very difficult thing, because I'll maybe describe with something the Chofetz Chaim says in Shmiras Haloshen. We know the Chofetz Chaim named the Sefer Chofetz Chaim, and he's referred to the Chofetz Chaim based on the pasuk Mi Ha'ish HaChofetz Chaim Oiv Yam Lirois Taiv. It's all Shain Chameira that if you want to be if you're Chofetz Chaim, it's all Shain Chameira. So you have to be careful not to talk Lashon Hara. The Chofetz Chaim says a very interesting point about someone who's Shomer his piv and does not talk Lashon Hara versus a person who is not Shomer and does talk Lashon Hara. It says the nafkamina between a person who talks Lashon Hara and a person who doesn't talk Lashon Hara is so basic that if you want to be an ish, right? If you want to be a human being, you have to be Nitzal Shan Chameira. You can't talk Lashon Hara, right? The uptight of a person is a medaber, right? A person speaks. What makes a person greater than an animal? We have Ruach Memala, right? Nefesh Chai Ruach Memala. We have the Koyach HaDibur. So our Koyach HaDibur, which is what makes us into an ish, which makes us into man. And when we compromise that, not only are we doing tremendous averis and tremendous kukum to ourselves and to the whole world around us, but we're literally compromising our existence. We are losing our chashivas as an ish. And a person is an ish because he's a medaber, and if he wasn't medaber, it would be questionable what the status of an ish is. And if he's medaber, if his dibur is mekulkol, if his dibur is corrupted, so he's worse than a non-medaber, right? What's worse, a person who doesn't speak at all, or a person who his speech is something that's destructive? So Me'el Chofetz Chaim tells us that a person who's not shomer, is not careful in Shmiras Haloshen, he's downgraded. He's not even an ish. And he's like that in the pasuk, Mi Ha'ish HaChofetz Chaim. You want to be an ish, and besides being an ish, you want to live as an ish, and you have to be Nitzal Shan Chameira. So my sense of the Chofetz Chaim is really one of like tremendous hakaras hatayv and like yira, like pachad. When I think about the Chofetz Chaim, I'm filled with just a very basic shudder, because the Chofetz Chaim was someone who literally made Klal Yisrael into an ish. Right? He gave us such basic chiyus. Right? Everything the Chofetz Chaim did was such a pashtus, just literally putting a base in Klal Yisrael. Right? The Chofetz Chaim understood that the Shmiras Haloshen is such a basic part of Klal Yisrael's well-being, and he dedicated his life towards helping Klal Yisrael improve in that. Chofetz Chaim understood that halacha. What's halacha? Halacha is pashtus, right? In Pnimis HaTorah, it's not exactly halacha shir. We fly a little higher, we're a little, disconnected from Olam Hazeh. The Chofetz Chaim is the ultimate connection. And Mela, when you talk about the Chofetz Chaim, I literally feel like a pachad, right? Because he literally is like a foundation in our lives. Where would we be without the Chofetz Chaim and Shmiras Haloshen and Tikkun Amidus that comes from that? Where would we be without a Mishnah Berurah, right? It's literally, you want to know something, look at the Mishnah Berurah. When you're young, you're immature, it looks a little darkistic. Everything is so important, this detail, that detail. But the Chofetz Chaim, this is what he gave us. He gave us literally a pashtus of how you live your life from morning to night every day. The Chofetz Chaim's view on the pashtus of life, was famous in in the chinuch that he gave over to his talmidim and to the world. His pashtus was literally the Olam Hazeh is nothing, and he displayed a total connection to Torah and Avodas Hashem as being the purpose of life, and in such a pashut way. It's famous that the Chofetz Chaim, he lived in a maybe like a one-room home with maybe like a chair and two tables. That was his furniture. And the story goes that there was a very wealthy Greer came to visit him, and he asked the Chofetz Chaim. He comes to his house and he sees a table and two chairs. So he asked the Chofetz Chaim, "Where's your furniture?" So this Greer had traveled from wherever he had traveled from America. So the Chofetz Chaim asked him, "Where's yours?" So he says, "What do you mean? I have a house full of furniture." He said, "But where's your furniture now? You didn't bring any furniture with you?" So he says, "How would I bring furniture? I'm just passing through, right? I'm not settling over here. When I at home in America, I'm settled. I have a house full of furniture." Chofetz Chaim told him, I'm just passing through, right? And literally, this is the way, the outlook that Chofetz Chaim gave us, that you're connected to what's going to make you into a person connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're alive. And without that, you're nothing. And you're literally just, Olam Hazeh, everything else is just passing through. I heard once upon a time when he got married, he got remarried a second time when he was older. He was in his 70s, and he married a woman who was I think in her 40s. He had another couple of children. He had the Rebbetzin Zaks and another son. And this woman wasn't used to the pashtus of the Chofetz Chaim, and she wanted the apartment or the house that they were going to live in. She wanted to have a wood floor instead of a dirt floor. And Chofetz Chaim was like taken aback. What, a wood floor? What do you need? What do you need wood on the floor? You have a dirt floor, right? It's like beyond the comprehension to actually take wood and place it down on the floor to walk on. It was just like a total focus of Dveikus HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but in such a pasha to Eifen that he literally gave a base and a foundation to Klal Yisrael, and we feel it to this day. I was amongst a group of people a few days ago. The Chofetz Chaim came up, and as the Chofetz came up, Chofetz Chaim's name came up. Someone made a joke and started laughing. I told this person, "How do you say the Chofetz Chaim in one sentence and laugh in the next sentence?" You know, saying it's just like the Chofetz Chaim brings us just a sense of Yiras Shamayim and purpose. How could you right when a person laughs, a certain sense of disregard for chashivas. For a moment, there's hesach hadas. How can you mesiach das with some sort of joke and laughter? You just said the Chofetz Chaim's name. It's like it's a stira, right? To say something about the Chofetz Chaim and then to make a joke. The story goes about the Chofetz Chaim that he was visiting a certain gvir. Apparently, he was in his house, and he had beautiful wallpaper on his walls. And the Chofetz Chaim looked at him. He says, "Oh, you coated your walls with Dafi Gemara. How could you do such a thing? You took Dafi Gemara and you coated your walls with Dafim from the Gemara." So the person didn't understand, what are you talking about? It's wallpaper. It's nothing. These aren't Dafim from a Gemara. It's meant to be go on the walls. So he told him, he says, how much, in order to buy this wallpaper, right? You have to earn a lot of money, right? You don't wallpaper a shabby house. You have to build a big house. You have to wallpaper in the Chofetz Chaim's mind was a symbol of someone that dedicated himself towards being kaveh himself in some sort of luxury. He says, how many hours did you have to put into to get to this status in life that you actually coat your walls with wallpaper? You must have spent thousands of hours, dedicating yourself towards this extra pursuit of parnasa. He says every hour that you spent was another daf of Gemara. I'm crying. I see your walls coated with lost dafim of Gemara. Every moment of life was just an opportunity to chap a mitzvah, and with such a pashtus, where the Chofetz Chaim makes a cheshbon, right, based on the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon says that every word of Torah is a mitzvah, and every word of Torah is connected 613 mitzvahs in Torah. Every word of Torah, kol chafetzecha lo yishvu ba, right? That every Torah is connected kol Torah kula. Every word of Torah is ki'ilu you mekayim 613 mitzvahs, and he makes a cheshbon. You sit down and learn, right? So you have a seder for a half hour, and you battle for 5 minutes, and you space out for 5 minutes. So Chofetz Chaim sat down and just pashtus. What are you giving up when you waste a minute of learning, right? What would you have if you focus a little bit more, if you dedicate your time a little bit better to the learning? So he made a cheshbon. How many words can a person speak in a minute? So he sat down, he timed himself learning. He says you can learn 200 words in a minute. 200 words times 613 mitzvahs, because every word is connected to 613 mitzvahs. So he came up with an astronomical amount, right, up to 120,000 mitzvahs in that 1 minute, right? And this is how the Chofetz Chaim gave chashivas in such a pasha to Eifen, that every mitzvah we do has such value, and every moment of life is literally something that can transform a person. And we're all affected by his outlook. This is Parashat Nitzavim. The pasuk tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was machnas Klal Yisrael into a bris, and there's something unique about this bris. The unique about this bris is the pasuk tells us, "Hanistaris LaHashem Elokeinu V'haniglois lanu l'vanena ad ha'olam la'asis is called divrei Torah zois. If a person chas v'shalom yid doesn't have very b'seiser, no one knows about it. So we can't correct him. We can't give him techacha. We can't give him chizuk on it. However, v'haniglois lanu l'vanena, what the yidden do that we know about, it's for us and for our children ad olam. Last is to cultivate Torah to make sure that the whole Torah is done. And from here we learn that Kol Yisrael Arevim Zelozeh, that every yid is responsible for another yid's avodah. Whatever you observe by another yid, right, you're responsible to make sure, right, that you help him if he sees coming up short. It's not like, oh, Nebuch, this guy's talking shul, let him suffer, and I'm not going to say anything, or I can help him in his learning. Let him, why should I help him in his learning? Right? Klal Yisrael Reivim Zelozeh, that means we feel a connection to each other, that we're responsible, that Klal Yisrael as a whole is Marbe Kvayt Shemayim, and Yen's Kvayt Shemayim is as important as my Kvayt Shemayim. So it's not just my mitzvahs and my learning. It's the whole Klal Yisrael takes responsibility for each other. He says, interesting, that that every day we're remekabel this arvus, that we take responsibility for each other. We say in V'yatziv, right? We say V'yatziv v'nochem v'kam v'yashar. These are all lashons of Kabbalah, right? We're mekabel all mitzvahs, and we say that we parrot this pasuk. We mirror this pasuk, right? Dvar Chaim kayamim ala v'seinu v'aleinu al baneinu v'al dariseinu v'al kol darisei yisrael avedecha, right? Chak v'layavar, right? That we're expressing every day this idea, right? That when we say v'yatziv, that we're makabel, not only makabel on us, the avodas Hashem, but we're makabel aleinu al baneinu v'al dariseinu, everyone in Klal Yisrael we feel responsible for. And he gives a Chofetz Chaim gives a lot of mishalim to bring out his points. And this he gives a nice simple, to the point mashal. He says, imagine like this. Imagine your friend Ruvain borrows $1 million, right? He's your friend, right? And he asks you to be an ariv on the loan. You're going to be a guarantor on the loan, okay? So you trust Ruvain, right? And so you sign on the loan. Guarantor, Ruvain doesn't pay back the money. You're on the hook for $1 million. The next day you see Ruvain at the racetrack. He doesn't say the racetrack, and he's putting $1 million down, right, on a horse or whatever. You see him, he seems getting involved in an investment, and this is a bad investment, right? You're going to go out of your kalim, right? I'm an arev. I'm a guarantor in that money, right? And so have me for a second. You're just going to sit back, let him do what he wants. You signed on as an arvis for this money. He says that's literally the arvis that every yid signs on for each other. You see a yid that could be picked up. You're responsible. You're just going to sit back and you're not going to give him chizuk. You're just going to sit back and let him flounder, right? Every yid that has the ability to pick up another yid, this is your responsibility. It's not only that if you help him you get schar. If you don't help him, you're being mevatel. You're not living up to the arvis that you're mekabel. So that's something that he brings out, that there's a sense of responsibility. Every yid has to have for each other, with literally the way the Chofetz Chaim can illustrate that sense of responsibility. The another page over here. So he says a pshat on another pasuk in this week's parsha. He says, the pasuk says, "Umal Hashem es elokechas levavcha ves levav zarecha, la'ahava es Hashem elokecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha, leman chayecha." He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when we do tshuva, ultimately, when Mashiach comes, Hashem is going to be mol or an olam haba. At some point, Klal Yisrael is going to have a tikkun, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to do a milah. He's going to remove the covering of our hearts, right, and the hearts of our children. And at that point, we're going to love Hashem with all our hearts and all our souls, because nowadays you can work on Avos Hashem, but there's always going to be some sort of Yetzer Hara, some sort of Arlos Halev that prevents a yid from fully appreciating emotionally the tremendous love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But Lasad Lavai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to remove that mechitza, and the Ava towards Hashem is going to come pouring out in full force. The end of the pasuk is Leman Chayecha. Right? What does the word say? Chofetz Chaim, what is this? What are these words? L'man chayecha, mal Hashem lekecha zevavcha, levav zarecha, lavas Hashem lekecha b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha. What's l'man chayecha, right? For your life, l'man chayecha, for your life. So he says a pshat like this. He says that there was a person. He says a mashal that there was once a poor person, a regular poor person, a farmer, let's say, and he's walking down the street and he sees the crown prince is drowning in the river. He jumps into the river and saves the crown prince. As reward for saving the crown prince, the melech says, "Okay, I'm going to let you go into my treasure, my vaults. You have 24 hours in my vaults. Whatever you take out in 24 hours is yours." And Kachabi goes into the vault. He takes out millions and millions of dollars, and he's a wealthy man. And every year, he celebrates with his friends, that he's such a wealthy person. Many years later, after living a life of luxury for the last 10, 15, 20 years, he asked his friends by one of the parties. He asked them, "When do you think what was the happiest day of my life? What do you think was the happiest day of my life?" So they think, "Oh, probably when you were on vacation in France and over there in this hotel, and they served you this, and we had such a great time, whatever." And all coming up with all sorts of luxurious things that the happiest day of his life. And he says, "No, I'll tell you what the happiest day of my life was." He says, "The happiest day of my life was a day that I was starving, and I was ragged, and I was poor, and I was dressed in farmer clothing. That was the happiest day of my life." What was that day? He says, "That was the day that the Melech let me into his Yartzeit. I didn't have any money yet, right? And I sat there the whole day, 24 hours. I didn't eat. I just kept on plugging and plugging and plugging. But it was with all the lack of physical comfort that I was missing, was the greatest simcha, knowing, right, that I'm achieving something that's ein l'sha'ar." So he says like this, that every moment of life we're in the Yartzeit HaMelech. Every moment of life, a yid is in the Yartzeit HaMelech. There's nothing stopping us. We could take as much treasures as we want every second, right? According to Chofetz Chaim, is about 3 words of Torah, right? Is it 200 words in a minute, he said? Yeah. Yeah, what ends up being whatever. Three words a second, right? He said every word is worth the greatest diamonds in the world. He says we're literally sitting in the Yartzeit HaMelech, right? And the only thing is, we have an Arlas Halev, right? So we don't fully appreciate, even when we are Meiser Nefesh for learning, even when we do go out to learn when we're tired, even when we do push ourselves to do Chavan and davening when it's hard, even when we get up for Slichas, right? And we push ourselves through our day, or we force ourselves not to talk Lashon Hara, and we're doing tremendous things for ourselves. We don't appreciate the full diamonds of it. He says, what happens? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and all of a sudden, at that point, you see that you take a look back at your life, and now you're able to view your life as being in the treasure house. In hindsight, you live your entire life in the treasure house, and you see the joy and the ahava and the tremendous excitement retroactively, that your entire life was one of such opportunity of literally being in the Yartzeit HaMelech and transforming yourself from nothing to Eved Hashem, to Ben Melech, to literally to grasp the Asher in the world. He says that's the pshat of Hashem is going to be Hashem Lekachel Levavcha, and you're going to look back Leman Chayecha. You're going to be able to look back at your life and realize the schusim that you had. The Chofetz Chaim is giving us an opportunity to look back from Last Lavai, and maybe we could apply this to our lives today, right? Even before we get Hashem is Malach Hashem Lekachel Levavcha, just knowing that it's waiting for us to uncover the pure joy of literally being able to transform ourselves in the Yartzeit HaMelech every day. And this is a lesson the Chofetz Chaim tells us from this pasuk of La'avas Hashem Lekecha B'chol Levavcha B'chol Nafshecha L'man Chayecha, that you're going to be able to appreciate life in retrospect when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mal Levavcha, and Halavai, we should be able to get a little view of that tremendous ava, that tremendous opportunity every day of our lives. Maybe just for us with something that something I saw for the Shem Shmuel in the parasha. said it over in the past. The pasuk says, "Leiba shemayim hi lemar mi yalo lana shemayim v'yikachel lanu." So he says that. So Rashi says, famous Rashi, if Torah was in Shemayim, we would have to go up to Shemayim to get it. But it's not in Shemayim. Kikar v'lecha dav ma'id. Mamish Hashem made it so simple. It's literally, it's programmed inside of you, right? We learned the whole Torah and all the emotions of Torah, all the av of Torah we developed in utero already. We just have to bring it out, right? But if it was in Shemayim, we'd have to go up and get it. So Frekta Shem Mishmul, how would you go up and get it, right? It wouldn't be Lamaisa. What does Rashi mean? How would you go up and get it? So Shem Mishmul says, he says like this, Mi yala lana shemayim is Rashi Tevis Mila. He says a Yid, when he's Halig, you don't realize Yamamash Malach. And a Malach can do anything. A Malach goes to Shemayim. There's something a person has, that Shem Mishmul brings out, that Yid doesn't realize how Halig he is when he's Taki keeps himself Halig. Like Yid keeps himself as a Kaddish. There's nothing stopping him from actually being Yala Shemayim. Shem Mishmul says a different word. And he says like this, that Malachim can fly, Malachim can do anything. What gives a Malach so much kayach, right? Malachim are, what is a Malach? A Malach is a pure shliach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which means HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells the Malach, go and destroy Sodom. The fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mitzav the Malach to destroy Sodom gives the Malach the kayach of the Mishaleach. He has the kayach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to destroy Sodom. Meaning, a Malach is something that his abilities are directly connected to the Kayach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is the Mishaleach. So, Dr. Shem Mishmuel, if Torah was in Shemayim, and there'd be a mitzvah to get Torah in a Shemayim, so the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mitzvah us gives us the ability to go to Shemayim. Right now, it's not there. There is no mitzvah. But if it was there, then the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a mitzvah to do it, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you a mitzvah, you have the shliach has the koyach of the mishaleach, right? You have the koyach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whatever he's mitzavi for, you have that koyach, and you'll be able to go up to Shemayim, mikoyach the mitzvah that you have to go to Shemayim. And he applies this to Kol HaTorah Kula. Kol HaTorah Kula, people can get a little bit lose confidence. I'm going to learn so much. I'm going to be so agahit entire mitzvahs. I'm going to give up this habit. I'm going to give up that. I'm going to have to schedule myself like this, and my day is going to be totally different than I imagine. And the answer is, once a person recognizes that this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, and you recognize this is the mitzvah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu commands you to do, then you recognize that the koyach of the mitzvah, the koyach of Mishalech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, will give us Hatziyata D'Shmaya to attain madregas that we would never imagine. And the Chofetz Chaim as our semel, as our mashal of a person who totally was mevatel his ritzaynis, really shows us that a yid can raise himself to madregas that one can never imagine. To be a big tzaddik and to follow in the footsteps of the Chofetz Chaim, Schos Yog and Elena Bal Kol Yisrael.